Hey everybody, I'm going to share a poem with you that means a lot to me. It means a lot to John because he's got a framed copy of it in his office sitting on the piano. I want these little, John calls them dialogues with Doc. When I first went to SMU over 30 years ago, the students were very proper. I was Dr. Delaney, and I wasn't comfortable with that. And so I said, we can't, because at Emory University, the students all called me Jack. And they said, well, we can't do that. So the grad students got together, and a guy who's been dean off and on, he's still an associate dean at University of Missouri, Kansas City, a percussionist, Jim Snell, an Illinois drummer, he goes, well, he said, the grad students and I got together and we decided we'll call you Doc. And it stuck. And so that's kind of how that happened. Well, in this dialogue, our dialogues, I'd like just to share some things with you that have been meaningful to me through the years. And hopefully things that will not make you think as in make you think, but maybe look at very familiar things in unfamiliar ways. One of my favorite poems is Wallace Stevens' 13 Ways of Looking at a Blackbird. And you read that poem, you wish it had gone 14, 15, 16, 17. So maybe we'll just look at something familiar in a new light. But I want to share this poem with you. It was written by a cockroach named Archie, who keeps company with an alley cat of questionable repute, a female cat named, is it Maribeth or Maribel? I can't remember. Maribel, I think. Yeah, Maribel. And well, Archie types by jumping up and down on the keyboard. He's a poet, a writer. But his poetry and his prose look like E.E. Cummings. It's all lowercase because he's a bug. And when he jumps up and down on the letter keys, he can't hold down the shift key to make capital letters. And so there's no punctuation. So it comes out looking like E.E. Cummings without the spaces. The title of this is The Lesson of the Moth. I was talking to a moth the other evening. He was trying to break into an electric light bulb and fry himself on the wires. Why do you fellas pull this stunt, he asked. Because it is the conventional things for moths, or why if that had been an uncovered candle instead of an electric light bulb, you would now be a small, unsightly cinder. Have you no sense? Plenty of it, he answered. But at times we get tired of using it, we get bored with the routine and crave beauty, we crave excitement. Fire is beautiful. But we know if we get too close to it, it'll kill us. But what does that matter? It is better to be happy for a moment and be burned up with beauty than to live a long time and be bored all the while. So we wad all of our life up into one little roll and then we shoot the roll. That's what life is for. It is better to be a part of beauty for one instant than then cease to exist, than to exist forever and never to have been a part of beauty. I'm going to repeat that. It is better to be a part of beauty for one instant and then cease to exist than to exist forever and never to have been a part of beauty. Our attitude toward life is come easy, go easy. We're like human beings used to be before they became too civilized to enjoy themselves. And before I could argue him out of his philosophy, he went and immolated himself on a patent cigar lighter. I do not agree with him. Myself, I would rather have twice the longevity and half the happiness. But at the same time, I wish there was something, anything, that he wanted as badly as he wanted to fry himself. When was the first time you touched beauty or it touched you? Every one of us has a story of a time where it might have been a private lesson, it might have been a teacher, it might have been a concert we attended, it might have been something you heard on the radio. that set you on this journey? I remember when it was for me, when I was an undergraduate at Ohio University studying trombone with Reg Fink, who was one of the great brass pedagogues, right up there with Donald Jacobs. I mean, Reginald Fink was Emory Remington's star. Wrote 20 or 30 books on brass playing. Well, it might have been a medium-sized state university in the middle of nowhere in rural southern Ohio, but with Reginald Fink there were 35 to 40 really good trombone players there all the time. Best ensemble at the school was the trombone choir. So as an undergraduate, you were just climbing this mountain of trombone players, and every time you got near the top, graduation would happen, a whole new bunch of graduate students come in and knock you back down to the bottom. So we were in a lesson one day, so you didn't get in the top wind ensemble or the orchestra right away, if at all. So one day I'm sitting in my lesson, he comes into his office, always distinguished gentleman with a pipe and a suit, never a sport jacket, a suit and tie and his pipe and a beret when he was outside. And I'm ready to play, and he says, "We're not having a lesson today." He goes, we're going up to Memorial Auditorium. I said, "Well, I haven't sucked yet." I mean, he and I got real close real fast. He goes, "No," he goes, "I'm not throwing out your lesson." He goes, "There's something you need to see." Well, we went up to Memorial Auditorium, and the wind ensemble was rehearsing. The choir was there. They were rehearsing a program called The Composer Conducts. Listen to this lineup. Warren Benson was there conducting his piece, The Leaves Are Falling. Paul Weir was there conducting his piece, Of This Time. Samuel Adler was there conducting one of his pieces, I forget which, it might have been Southwestern Sketches. Corel Husa was there conducting his Te Deum with the wind ensemble and the choir. I had never seen or heard anything like that. I touched fire that day, and it touched me, and I've been chasing it ever since. Every one of you has a story that set you on this journey. And we're privileged as teachers to try to help other people, our students, discover that moment where fire touches them. When was it for you guys? Anybody? No, we all remember it, don't we? And I promise you, you don't remember how it sounded. You don't remember how it sounded. Do you hear what he described? I became part of the sound. Music doesn't sound, music feels. You think of the best experience you've ever had in music, you don't remember what it sounds like, but you remember how it felt and how it makes you feel. Music feels, it doesn't sound. Anybody else? When was it?
So my memory for myself is a lot like Mr. Trombone over there. I was a freshman in high school, trumpet player with the sousaphones behind me. First day of full band camp, shook my soul. But the memory that sticks out the most for me is my first year teaching. I taught at a Catholic school with zero budget, and I had no idea what I was doing, but I was really excited. And those kids were really excited with me. And the first time that we performed a concert, and it was terrible, but I cut off and they cut off with me, and we looked at each other. My soul was on fire.
And you remember today exactly how that felt. You know, teaching, and teaching in the broader sense, you don't need a certificate to teach. You know, the late Donald Erb, we weren't close, but he spent some time at SMU long before I got there. And then, 30 some years at Cleveland Institute. But he had spent 3 years before I got to SMU as a visiting professor, and then he came and spent time with us. And Donald Erb used to say, all you have to have a school is somebody with something to share and somebody that wants to learn. He goes, the rest is just bricks and mortar, right? Well, those of us who are privileged to teach, whether it's with a certificate or just sharing something with someone who wants to learn, we have an opportunity to help people have those moments. And when I think about the people I get holiday cards from, for a kid that grew up in rural Southern Ohio, and just lucky that Reg Fink took me on like the old movie Animal House, on double secret probation. I didn't know I was. And to think of the places I've seen in the world and things I've experienced and things that I've felt, and the people who send me, I mean, pictures in my office of my daughter bouncing on Joe Schwantner's knee. And because of that moment, and all the times it's been discouraging, and I've wanted to kind of quit, I always remember what fire feels like. I mean, some of us I never really decided what I was going to do for a living. I was always on this journey. That's all I ever wanted to do. Since I was 6 and saw a concert at the Smithsonian, my aunt took me. I said, I'm going to do this. But that day in Memorial Auditorium in Athens, Ohio, is when fire burned me. And I've been chasing it ever since. Think about that, your own story, and think of the awesome responsibility you have of giving other people the chance to experience that. Some of our other dialogues, and there'll be time for questions, and we'll talk all day and all night, between things. But I wanted that just to be kind of our introduction, the first domino we push over. They'll make the others drop. And we'll talk a little bit about that responsibility and how sometimes I think we're too casual in that aspect of our role. Frank, the great Frank Battisti, who turns 90 here in a few days, 89, 90. He will say that, he goes, boy, he said, maybe, he goes, everybody can't be a doctor. They control how many medical schools there are. He goes, maybe they need to do the same thing with music education and make it harder. Because he said it's an awesome responsibility to hold a child's life in your hand. He goes, maybe we're too casual about passing out music degrees. He goes, we pass out music education degrees like Halloween candy. Maybe it should be harder. He's not talking about harder. He's talking about what's your commitment. I just read a book by David Gregory where President Bush looked at him one day. He goes, David, how's your faith? Challenged him right to his face. How's your faith? Set him on a lifetime journey of exploring his faith. Not religion, mind you, but faith in the larger context. Our mission is to set people on a journey. How's your faith? What's your commitment? And that's what Battisti was talking about. It's like, we need to take that commitment a little more seriously. I remember jokingly saying once, well, we're not working the late shift at Parkland Hospital saving lives, and we're not over at the theology school saving souls. Well, you know something? We are. And I'll share a little something with you the next time we have a chance to talk of an address that you might be aware of, but it was new to me. An address that the great Carl Polnack shared when he was director of the Division of Music at Boston University with the incoming freshman class. He went on, just retired after a couple of years as dean at Ithaca College. Wonderful pianist. I want to share that where he challenges our commitment. Like W looked at David Gregory and said, how's your faith? And expecting an answer. Polnack challenges us to our commitment as music makers and music teachers.